Please bless our county, our state, and our country. Help us all to make good, wise choices on behalf of our county, its citizens, and bless our law enforcement and first line responders. Keep them safe. Bless this meeting that we might be productive, that we might conduct a meeting that is pleasing unto thee. And we ask for thy hand in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So on tonight's agenda, we have three changes. The change on D6 is. I'll go ahead and read it here if I'm in the right place. So it's for Mental Health Court 2024. We budgeted the FICA in 91.95. The part-time 31,575 is reduced from 34,000, and FICA Social Security is 2,425. And then on E5, pre-trial diversion program, that's being tabled at this time. And then item G1, Whiteland EDC will need to do a nomination in February, not an appointment, but a nomination, as I understand it. Is that correct? Nomination today. Okay, I'm sorry.
Which one was that?
That was on item G1. So it asks for approval or a motion for approval on the 1/8/24 agenda, please.
I'll make a first motion.
Motion by Melinda Reesner.
Second.
Second by John Dittmers. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. All right, now we open up the meeting for public comments at this time. Anybody in the audience that wants to come up and talk for a period no more than 5 minutes? Anybody online? All right, hearing or seeing none, we'll carry on. So at this time, we'll now open the meeting up for nominations for council president and vice president. And per our council rules that were approved on December 4th, 2023, to be eligible to serve as vice president or president of the council, the members shall have been present in person for at least 50% of the council's previous year's meetings. Selections shall be made by a majority of the elected members of the council. I now call for nominations for council president at this time. So I'd like to make a nomination, please, for Councilor Pamela Burton for the office of president of the council. And now I'll ask for a second.
I'll second that.
Second by John Mollers. So are there any more nominations for the office of president? Move to close. Move to close by John Dittmers. Nominations are closed. Since there are no additional nominations, I'll now ask for a roll call vote for president at this time.
I think since there's only one nominee, we don't need to do a roll call. Had there been multiple nominees, then we would want to do one for vote tallying purposes. So
I'll
that
just say all in
I
favor.
think it is, since there's only one nominee, you can just take it up in a
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, Councilor Burton.
We have a.
So bad.
Come over here.
No, I'll stay right here. I can do it from right here.
I've been.
I have my paperwork out. I would really prefer sitting right here.
I've been looking forward to coming
No,
up and.
you're good.
That's the
You're good, you're good.
order.
Here it is.
Sit down.
I got this. All right. So Pam, you want to clear pass this down to us? Let's see about format.
The next order of business will be a nomination to call for the position of vice president. So I'm going to call for nominations for council vice president. Do I have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate John Mollers for the position of vice president of the council.
I would like to nominate Dittmers for vice president.
I was gonna second the motion for John Mallard. That confuses a lot.
Are you seconding, John?
I did. Yeah, we can, if you want to do that, that's fine. Thank you.
Do I hear any other seconds?
She nominated you, so we would need a second
Oh.
for John Dittmer.
I'll second. Second.
Okay, so we have two nominations for president. I'm
Vice
sorry, for
president.
vice president. That would be John Mollers and John Dittmers. So we ask for a roll call vote now.
I would ask if there's any other nominations. If there's not going to be any, then you would do a motion to close
Okay,
nominations. And then at that time, Amy can do a roll call vote and we'll go down the list of who won.
I have a request for clarification. Was there a second for John Dippler?
yes.
I think you gave the second for John Dittmers, didn't you?
Yeah, you did.
We moved so quickly there that I got.
We'll withdraw it.
All right.
Feel free to withdraw it.
I'll withdraw.
Are there any other
Are there
nominations?
any other Johns that want to be nominated for anything?
There are too many Johns on council. for sure.
Are there any other nominations for vice president? Take a motion then to close the nominations.
Motion to close nomination.
Do we need a second on that? Or is it closed then? Nominations are closed. Amy, can we do a roll call vote, please? For vice president and council?
So I
You
think
don't need to.
for clarification, I think Ron Deere retracted his second. The only nominee at this point in time is John Mollers. So we don't need a roll call vote. There's only
I didn't hear him retract it. I apologize. Okay. So we're good to go on vice president, John Mollers.
There we go.
we'll call for a vote. We still have to get,
Goodness.
it's okay. So just call for a vote on the nominee for John Mollers. All those in favor.
All of those in favor for John Mollers for vice president for council in 2024. Please vote.
Aye.
Aye. Now he is president or vice president.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay. Are you sure you don't want the rest of the meeting? The next order of business is board appointments for the Greenwood City Economic Development Commission. Is there anyone here for that this evening? Come to the podium and state your name, please.
Lauren Ashby. Would you mind pulling the mic down a little further? Thank you.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your application and your goals or?
Mayor Myers reached out to me for the position. I own a business in Old Town Greenwood, if you guys are familiar. I also have a shop in Carmel called Ford and Brush. Yeah, excited to get more involved in the Greenwood community. On Main Street. So it's a call again. Ford and Brush.
Right near the bar.
All the bars.
The only application that we had available that was the requirements, and it was recommended. So floor is open for a motion.
Making a motion to approve Lauren as the Economic Development Commission member.
Was this the only?
Yeah, it's in your packet. That's the only application there was. That was qualified. Ready for a second on that nomination?
I second.
Have a first by Ron Deere, a second by John Mallers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Second order of business is for the Franklin City Economic Development Commission. Is there anyone here? Come right ahead to the podium and state your name.
Hello, I'm Lisa Jones. Official name is Melissa Jones, but most people know me by Lisa Jones. I currently have been on the Economic Development Commission since you went off. I think I took your place. That's what I remember. And previously had worked with the Board of Works for Franklin as well as City Council for Franklin. So when I moved to Southern Johnson County, I had to resign from those positions and was asked to join on the EDC board. My husband and I, we have a company here in Franklin that's Jones and Anderson CPA Group, located at 198 North Main Street. So I think we're probably pretty close to some bars too, about a block from the Willard. So right there with you.
Yeah.
Prior history is commercial lending, then my history with Franklin. Lived
Any
here most of my
questions?
life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Samantha Cannon. I'm a resident here in Franklin. I have been here since 2011. I have been in government and military contracts and federal grant writing now since 1999. So I felt that the Economic Development Commission would be a good place to utilize my skills in those areas to help move Franklin forward.
Anybody have any questions for her? Thank you so much. Anyone ready to make a motion on the two applicants that we have received? I will say, they both appear to be very qualified for the position. Thank you both very much. So we're ready for a motion if anyone's ready.
I'd make a motion, and Madam President, I would agree. Both are very qualified. I think with Lisa Jones being 1 year in as an incumbent, it kind of makes some sense to me to allow her to continue with what she started. And it just seems like it's kind of hard, but that's where my mind goes.
So
I would make a motion for Lisa Jones.
We have a first by Mr. Dittmer.
And may I talk to Samantha first? Samantha, don't give up. Keep at it. We need you.
Absolutely.
And for Samantha, we do a lot of federal contracts. If you'd like to volunteer your time.
And I'll second the nomination.
The first by Mr. Dittmer, a second by Mr. Myers, JT. And all in favor for Lisa Jones to continue in the position for the Franklin City EDC? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Congratulations.
carries. Congratulations.
Samantha can run for council.
Yeah, she could. We'll nominate you for vice president. Okay, moving on to routine matters under the consent agenda. By a single motion, this board approves these items, which include salary ordinances, amendments, additional appropriations, reductions and transfers. Any of these line items on the consent agenda can be removed by a council member and moved to the regular agenda if they so choose. So after review of the consent agenda, does anyone have anything they would like to discuss or have moved to the regular agenda? If not, I'll be
Make a
open.
motion to approve.
We have a
consent.
question. Hang on.
I'm sorry, I have a question on number 11. The supplemental immunization. I was just wondering if that was something that could have been paid from those state health department funds that we didn't take. Does anyone know?
Betsy is here.
I know it's a grant. I know there's a lot left. I was just kind of wondering.
No, that's a separate grant that we entered into before the Betsy Swearingen, I'm sorry, Director, Health Department. No, that is a separate grant that we entered into prior to the governor's public health funds. So we're just fulfilling the rest of that contract.
Okay, but those other funds could not have been used for this purpose, or could they have been?
Yeah, a lot of these grants that we have right now, the school liaison grant and this supplemental grant. I know the school liaison grant will be going away with hopes that you will take over with the governor's public health funds on that. So we'll be scrambling to do that. But then on this grant, we don't know if it will be continued or not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion by JT for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
By John Mallers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item number E on the agenda, number 1 is the sheriff under salary ordinances, amendments, additional appropriations, reductions, and transfers.
I'm going to handle A. Chief Deputy Barnhart will go over the contractual service and overtime. He's already discussed that, but it's a lot of duty death insurance policy of 15,000. That is a new line item that I have to create for our budget for Deputy Tim Geyer that passed away at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy.
Could you state your name just for the record, please?
I did, Dwayne Burgess.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Just so we all know, this is not a discretionary choice of the council. This request does meet the requirements of Indiana Code 36-8-10-16.5. And it is the duty of the sheriff to offer to provide and pay for health insurance coverage for the eligible employees' surviving family members. So I know, along with myself and this council, we express our deepest condolences to this family. Never a good situation. So after stating that, is there anyone with any further discussion?
I'd move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Ditmer's moved to approve and JT moved to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Andy Barnhart, Chief Deputy at the Sheriff's Office. The next item is the contractual services out of the lit. This is what we talked about at the November meeting, and it's the separate little packet that I provided to you. And this is for primarily to increase for the Axon contract. It's the next 5-year contract for body cameras, the interview rooms, tasers, and the fleet system for our vehicles. And the packet gives all of those details about the breakdown of exactly what the contract entails, and I'd be happy to answer any questions for you. I can go back over an overview if you'd like.
So has legal had a chance to review this or?
We're fine. The commissioners have already approved the contract. There was language in the contract that allowed us to get out of it, that the money wasn't appropriated, but we're legal reviewed everything. We're okay on our end.
Is it a renewal or is this a new,
Brand new contract for the next 5 years.
a new vendor?
Same vendor.
Same vendor in this contract. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
If memory serves me correct, Andy, and I have not had time to review these numbers. I would be lying to you if I told you I did. It came in at a late notice with everything else. I just didn't have time to look at it. But if memory serves me right, didn't you have X amount of dollars going into this?
as far as what we had appropriated before based on. Yeah, so
Can you kind of give us a little background on that?
absolutely. If you look at page, well, not one, but where it says current program, it's the third from the last page. And it's got the kind of yellow and orangish colored table there. Yeah, that's got the current breakdown of what we're paying. So we have paid off, the very last thing says paid in full contracts, that's 160,000. That's what we paid off commissary. And then we're currently still paying 130,000 a year. So if you break that 160 up also, it's a grand total of approximately $200,000 a year that is currently being paid out of our contractual services. And so we're asking for the increase on that to cover the additional acts on contracts, as well as a few of our other contracts for body scanner, maintenance, range maintenance, things like that. So that's why we're asking to bump up. And if you recall, the reason we didn't do this at budget time, then the preferred thing is we're approaching after budget time by the Axon vendors, because our contract doesn't actually end until mid 2024. I believe it's August 2024. But by signing in 2023, by the commissioner signing at the end of last year, locked in the pricing there, that's going to save the county 110,000 a year. They want to break.
I knew that I was thinking it was coming back in the spring for an initial appropriation, so it's gonna be back in January, so nothing's changed on the timeline, we just need to get this done.
That's correct. Yeah, so this is just the appropriation component. Metro to approve the contract itself. So once the council, if they decide to do it, once you all approve the appropriation, then we'll start immediately, seeing the product and rolling it out. And it will notify then the rest of the old contract.
Thank you.
But not but it's and then body cameras on and then in addition to that, well, is staff and all that.
Any further discussion? Open for a motion?
Motion to approve. As presented.
JT made a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Mr. Ditmer's second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is the overtime, 55,500. And that is simply stepping back up to what we were at previously due to the last minute, some changes on the budget last year for 2024. Some of those numbers had to be taken down with the understanding that the council that would be coming, we're just asking for exactly the same amount that we had previously asked for. Due to advertising, we had to lower that amount down.
And it is actually needed at this point.
Yeah, overtime is one of those ones that's hard to quantify exactly because we have some, what I would call yearly average in overtime, but we always have to have a buffer there for emergencies, because if some large scale investigations happen where it require detectives have a lot of overtime, or if we have some situations like the tornado and different things that we had last year where we have to have massive amounts of overtime available, that money needs to be there and ready so that we can have it ready to pay everyone out, not have to come to council first. It's kind of an emergency, but that's money that if we don't use at the end of the year would always revert back to the
How much was
fund.
appropriated during budget time? Do you know? Do you have that handy?
I have, give me just a second. I can look.
I probably have it here somewhere in Amy's printouts.
Oh, you know what? I think I have it on the summary sheet. It was set at 55. Wait a minute. Let me make sure this is correct. Okay, it was set at 55,500. You know what? That might be a.
And use that fund balance on here? No, okay.
Amy, did we make a mistake on that letter? You know? That says 55,500. I think that's what the current appropriation is, and I'm just seeing that because it should be at 210, which is what it was last year. So I believe that is incorrect. Because in the letter and then on the what was advertised, I think was for the 55.5, which was already budgeted. So we're gonna have to correct that and come back.
Okay. So we need to start over, Amy, or how does that work? Can we go ahead and appropriate the?
Later on.
Okay,
Oh, the 55.5, and then just ask for the 170. Okay, I apologize. That was simply a typo in the letter, and here we are.
And you're gonna need any of it in the next 30 days?
No, we'll be
So
okay for
should
right
we
now.
Just table it and get it all at once.
And there's we can create a reorganize from different accounts too, if we had to in an emergency, but
so what Mr. Dittmers is asking you, do you just want to table this and come back for for what you need, or?
let's just table it and I'll come back. That'd be
Okay.
fine. Yes,
Okay,
I apologize.
no problem.
You need a motion to table.
Yeah, I was gonna motion the table.
All right.
Move to the table.
Second.
Mr. Dittmers made a motion to table. JT. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Barnhart. Thank you, Sheriff.
Next, we have the Health Department.
Betsy Swearingen, Director of the Health Department. I'm here today for two reasons. The first one is just to appropriate some professional services funds. It's for our WIN records. We had hoped to finish it up in 2023 and it didn't get finished up. So we just would like to appropriate it to get the programs in place.
So this was just money you already had that did.
Money we already had, it just didn't get spent, and
Gotcha.
we just would like to finish getting the programs installed and get them paid.
Okay,
I'll make the first motion.
Melinda made a motion. First,
Second.
was that
Was
Mr.
that motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
as president?
Second.
And John Deere seconded the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you, Betsy.
And my second one I'm here for today is just to appropriate some funds that we have into a food line item. Everybody always wants to know, how do you have money for food? I spent a lot of time last year taking at the Fairbanks School of Public Affairs. They did a workforce study and they gave $1,000 gift card if we took that. So we've appropriated that into a food line item. And so we had it left over from last year and need to appropriate it for this year.
Good. I'll make a motion to approve.
Melinda Grissom made a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Ron Deere second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Innkeeper's tax.
Good evening. I'm Ken Kosky, Executive Director for the Johnson County CPT Board. First of all, congratulations, and I'm sorry to the new officers for your responsibility. I'm just here for our standard quarterly appropriation and wanted to let you know that our last quarter was very successful. For the first time in our county, we were able to bring ice skating to one of our communities. So that was certainly something that brought families together and brought visitors in. So we're pleased with that. We also brought the Coogee Alley renovation, which is kind of an Instagrammable photo opportunity to fruition, bringing other partners' dollars in to make those go further. So those were a couple of the projects that we wrapped up. And as always, I'm here to answer any questions if you have them.
Anyone have any questions or any discussion for Ken?
Ken would be disappointed if they didn't ask. How do you quantify the work you do as far as the value it brings to the county? You've done that before, I know, but high level, what are the metrics you look at?
Yeah, so there's a variety of them. The one that we do every few years, and actually we're going to do this every year because the state is going to pay for it for us, is the economic impact study. So what it does is it shows the economic impact of tourism prior to us being a tourism agency and then every year since. And I think I mentioned this last time, but before we were a tourism agency, our economic impact was down 0.5% year over year. Ever since then, even considering we went through COVID and things like that, it's rose 8.4% a year. So you can see that doing nothing will only make you fall further behind Hendricks County, Hamilton, Indy. There's other metrics like the innkeeper's tax collection. So that has been rising year over year. There's countless others, and I'm going to be producing our annual report, which I'll give you all a copy of next time I see you. I can probably even mail it or get it to you in advance of that. But, you know, there's a variety of it.
Addresses some of these questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Open for a motion?
If you waited too long, I have another question.
No worries.
Horse park. I always ask about the horse park. Is that in the loop or?
Oh, yeah. Kevin and I communicate on a regular basis, and he knows that that we're gonna market that heavily, but also if he needs anything else that we can collaborate on, we'll certainly do that. So that's one of the things that will be featured heavily in the printed guide that you'll also get a copy of at the same time as the annual report. And I'm glad that you asked that question, because one of the things I wanted to mention is that in 2024, we'll be doing co-op advertising where the state of Indiana pays half and we pay half to get that out further. We're also partnering with Aspire, our economic development folks, where we each put in a third, us, Aspire, and Indy Chamber, to do advertising. So these advertising dollars that we have are not just going and being used, they're being multiplied to spread the word about things like Hoosier Horse Park and all the other great things that our county has to offer.
I have a motion. Ron Mallard made that motion to approve as presented. Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. Item number 5 has been tabled for a later time. So now we're ready for the commissioners and lit correction and rehab. It's here as well.
Who?
Kevin Walls, Johnson County Commissioner. For $1.9 million for community corrections. Correct. We're asking for this for early design costs on this. We have to get it designed before we can actually set the budget. Is what it is. And it's proportional. We've looked at it. So just asking for only 1.9.
Mm-hmm.
But that, if I'm correct, that will revert back out of the bond. So it'll be a recoupable expense. So you're funding the money to be paid for when the bond.
It's reimbursed with the issue of the bond, right? And the bond funds.
And those are soft costs over the life of the project. They may or may not use them all, correct?
It's an estimate from the architect right now,
Mhm.
and they're going to be pretty close to that number because they base it. We've got close on budgeting the whole building,
Mhm.
but there's some tweaks. We haven't got really into the finite details yet.
Mhm.
But in order for us to set a bond amount and dollar amount, we have to have the design done. So that's what we're asking for up front, and it will be recouped into the bond when we issue the bond.
So a couple of us have been involved in on the sidelines, but I can say that this is justified and very necessary for us to move forward with the community corrections project, which is direly needed.
Very much. And probation will also be in that too. So
It's been a long time coming.
Move to approve.
There's been a lot of things a long time.
We have, I'm sorry,
You had a motion. But John did.
John. John made a motion to move or to approve as presented
I'll second.
and JT seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you,
Thank
Kevin.
you very much.
Hello, Tracy Smith, the Johnson County WIC Coordinator. I'm here today to ask for additional appropriations in our budget due to a grant amendment from absorbing Shelby County WIC. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm sorry, can you pull the mic down a little
A little
closer?
bit closer. Sorry, I'm short.
Yeah.
There we go.
What was your name again?
Tracy Smith.
Tracy
Mhm.
Smith. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You said this was an amendment to your grant originally, so that's why you're back here to have those
Yeah,
monies appropriated, correct? Is
yeah.
there anything out of the ordinary or unusual as the grant was presented prior to?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay, so this is a formality for bookkeeping, is what
Yes.
I'm hearing you say?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
For the full grant award, because that was amended.
Thanks for what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. A lot, means a lot.
I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
If anyone else having questions as well. Looking through the individual line items, Tracy, I see on here, I see here where we've taken over Shelby County
Mhm.
for, I forget the acronym for that program, for the
WIC.
adult,
For what?
the acronym for that program for the.
WIC.
Human Services, where they came from, or
No.
WIC, Women, Infants and Children?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, Yeah.
So, by taking over Shelby County, has that required new employees?
No, we're keeping they're a well-oiled machine over there. Known the staff I've been with WIC for 25 years. The director over there has been there for 21 years. In fact, I've worked with her. They've got longevity over there. So experience, so all staff stayed, which
Yeah.
was amazing. So really, there's no changes except for the paycheck come from here. I mean,
But are we picking them up on our benefits and things is what I'm asking.
there's only one person taking benefits, and that's the director. Everybody else is part-time. And then, of course, we pay for all the health insurance, vision, dental, and all that kind of stuff throughout within the grant.
Mhm. And it wasn't considered to do that contractual? I mean, they had to become.
Oh,
an
no,
employee?
I always offer when I hire somebody a 1099 versus a, W-2. And it just depends, on their, there's high, the taxes are higher for 1099, 12% actually in the state of Indiana. But one gal needed benefits, but the other are part-time. So they're not going to be utilizing benefits.
So we've
Like
got,
workers'
we've
comp.
got 7 employees now about that, or
It would be 3 part-time and 1 full-time. Yeah, in Shelby County.
in Shelby County.
Yeah, yeah.
In Johnson County, what have we got?
What do we have? 11. We're quite a bit bigger. We see about 3,000 a month people and they see about 1,200. So they're considerably a lot smaller.
Can you give just a little background for people listening on how we manage? The first question is going to be, why is Johnson County managing Shelby County?
Sure.
So that's, that's the question.
I was approached by the state WIC office to see if there would be a desire to take over the fiscal agent or the health department as well, because their fiscal agent was no longer going to be able to maintain that grant award. And they wanted me to take over Decatur, and I'm like, that's a little far. So Decatur went to Bartholomew County, and then we took over Shelby because they're, in our region and close to us. So, but there's not going to be any crossing back and forth. There's full staffed, and we're full staffed in Johnson County.
So the only potential exposure we have is the medical insurance, correct?
It is all covered by the grant, but
The
yes,
premium is covered by the grant, right?
yes, we pay the 12,500 per each
Yeah.
employee. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
This is interesting. Is the state trying to promote consolidation amongst counties?
No.
It just kind of happened.
Sometimes it happens, like, for example, IU Health Hospital went into Brown County and it used to be Decatur, Shelby and Brown County. And, but when IU Health came in, they said, we would really like to pick up WIC and have it inside a healthcare clinic. So they are getting everything done. And so they actually broke off and they took over. So sometimes it makes sense for different agencies to go with different programs. It's a better fit sometimes. And then sometimes some of these agencies are non-for-profits and they just go under for one way, reason or another, but we're with the health department. Half of the WIC agencies are with health departments or hospitals or some sort of medical.
From my
Specific.
understanding and my research, since COVID, my understanding was that the governor was trying to consolidate into a centralized health area.
Not with,
That was
Not
what they
with
spoke
WIC.
at those meetings.
I've met that I'm clear.
Okay.
We've always had Johnson County's WIC,
Yeah.
I think pretty much since the inception.
there's
So
39 local agencies in the state of Indiana and a few like hundreds of clinics, but there's still quite a bit. Yeah. There can be like Marion County has 20 some clinics within but it's the biggest county, in the state of Indiana. So there can be multiple clinics within a county as well. And they can go anywhere they want to. They don't have to. We have a lot of people coming from Marion County because a lot of they're short staffed up there. So our caseload's gone up quite a bit because those people are driving down to our county and receiving services. And of course, they shop here, they play here, so it is bringing, they can go to any county they want to. They don't have to go to the designated county in their area.
Okay.
Yeah.
See any other consolidation down the road?
Oh, no. No.
Okay.
No, because Marion County, our donut counties would be obviously Marion, Bartholomew County, but Bartholomew County is with New Hope Services and they have like, I don't know, 8 or 9 different counties. I can't remember. So there would not be anything around this. And this is unique. I mean, I've been with WIC for 25 years and this is the first time that, anybody's approached me, but it was nice. So.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, just one more question. I don't want to belabor the point, but it's a $223,000-ish
Mhm. That was
decision here.
their
right?
budget. Yeah.
And that's a grant, it's all grant funded.
Yes, yes.
And it's grant funded because it sounds like they were going to discontinue approving the grant for Shelby County,
For Human Services was their fiscal agent, HSI.
but they were going to.
HSI decided not
Johnson
to.
County has increased to absorb them. Is that kind of what I'm hearing? In other words, our grant funding was increased by enough to cover and
Yes,
absorb
absolutely. Yes.
Shelby County.
Yep. That's why I'm here with this amendment for an additional funding. In the
And
grant.
that ability to continue on an independent basis was back to, was it performance related or was it?
No. It's, I think I'm not privy to all the information and conversations. It had nothing to do with the staff and the program itself. It had to do with the leadership within HSI corporation or organization, not wanting to renew the grant.
Leave it at that.
You what?
I'll leave it at that.
Oh, okay.
Any further discussion? Open for a motion.
I move to approve the grant appropriation as presented.
Second.
First by John Knowles, the second by JT, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for answering our questions. You're welcome.
School Court One.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Barton, Joe Spirit. I am here to request a continuation of the appointee I had heard before you in November. Line item. Yeah, individual who has a law degree at the rate of 75 per hour on a part-time basis. I'm asking that the rate be effective January 1st. It's supposed to be retroactive. I anticipate that probably the individual will only be working a few more days as she is leaving to pursue opportunities in Seattle here soon. So it's a fairly short time request.
That's what I was going to ask. When we talked about this before, you had thought she was going to be done by they were going to be done by the first of the year. So it is coming to an end, correct? Okay.
And does the position stay open?
It could, but there's no one else I have. So
So if it did, it'd be another, it'd be another look at by the apple, right?
I mean, you could,
Gotcha. I'd move to
you could
approve.
just leave it like that.
Second.
The approval needs to be retroactive
Active to January
until
1.
January
Right.
1.
Yep.
Have a first by Mr. Dittmers,
Second.
second by JT, all in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks, Your Honor.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Angela Morris, Director of Court Services. We are asking for additional appropriations for the SIM grant. It is retro to October 5th of 2023. We were notified mid-December, early to mid-December, that we'd received the grant. This is from the Indiana Office of Court Services. And this is our 4th year, I believe, to receive this.
So I'm hearing you say this grant is, you're asking it to be retro because of the time you received it and due to the state changes.
Just due to the time we received it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It ends every September. And for the last 2 years, I've had a position built in to our budget for this person, should we not receive the grant each September, but we keep getting it, so.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
No, thank-
Questions?
Just wanted to thank Angela. I know. You'll look forward to that building, won't you?
We already are looking forward to it, yes.
With 53 people about that? Is that how many you got?
53 offenders.
Under your wing? As
Under
far
my
as
wing?
Probationary and
I have 85 staff. And there's around 60 some offenders living in work release right now.
thanks for what you do.
Angela, I got a pretty easy question for you to answer, I think, but this is retro to October.
Yep.
What's done with the funding since October to now? In other words, we're funding that, so then that's a pretty good source of funds. What's been done with that? Is that just a bank or is that?
Do you know that answer?
Remember if this is reimbursable or like? Yes, twice a year. Some degrees are all different.
I know.
I'm just trying to understand the benefit of it being retro versus from this point going forward to September, which is when I think the new grant would be expected. Is that correct?
Correct.
Because we've been utilizing the grants, otherwise it would come out of general fund. So we were paying it. Basically without appropriation because they just got notice and this will be the next confirmation.
So are we then reimbursing the general fund?
We didn't pay him out of general fund. We paid him out of grants.
Paid it out of the grant without an appropriation, which is normally not done, but because of the dates.
But it was still inside the grant. It just wasn't formally appropriated, correct?
Yes. It's messed up, so we're trying to fix it best. But that, it's a new year, so.
That I get. It's messed up. We're trying to fix it. I understand.
That's a good explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thankful to Amy. Her office has been very helpful with.
So this is just kind of right sizing this thing and going forward, then we won't bump into this again.
Hopefully
Theoretically.
not, like we applied for this and we're usually notified in September, October if we've received it, and this year we just didn't, and so we assumed we weren't getting it. And then we're notified in December we did.
How are we paying it out of grant funds if it wasn't approved and provided?
Most grants are reimbursable.
So we're not spending as it comes. We spend it and then they reimburse.
Well, I
can't
can't
say
say for sure if this one's that way. Like I said, all grants are different. So I can't remember off the top of my head if they do give us in 2 installments at least that we pay it.
Okay.
Can't remember that.
Once again, I'll leave it at that. That's 2 in a row.
Any other questions or discussion for Angela?
I may have a follow-up on that, but not for now.
It's a good thought, John.
Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Ready for a motion
I'll make the first motion to approve
as presented?
as presented.
I'll second.
We have a first by Melinda, a second by John, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angela.
Okay, item number F, we have approval of ordinance 2024-01, which is an ordinance regarding an additional appropriation by Hensley Fire Protection District, Fund 8691. Hi.
Hello, good evening, Council. Jeff Peters, Financial Advisor for the Fire Protection District. The proposal before you today is an additional appropriation for $100,000 from their cumulative fire building and equipment fund, which is their equivalent to your cumulative capital development fund. Can only be spent for capital items. Presently, based on the 24 budget that has been presented and the feedback from the DLGF, the cash reserve is about 600,000. The request before you is to spend 100,000 of that 600,000. So there would still be 500,000 in reserve for future equipment needs. Got a representative from the fire department to explain to you the use, and a representative from the board if you'd like further information.
Hi, I'm Andy Ceasing. I'm a deputy chief at the fire department. We are needing this money. Last year, we went with the White River Fire Department and ordered air packs, personal protective air packs for our membership. By going with White River, we were able to get putting our orders together, we were able to get a higher discount. But because of the price increase, it went over the amount that we had thought of 200,000. So we're asking for 30,000 of this 100,000 for that. The other 70,000 is going to be for fire hose. We haven't purchased our large diameter supply hose in over 20 years, or our other attack line, our 1.75 inch and 2.5. The past 4 years, from 2020 to 2023, our failure rate has gone from 8.11%, because we get them tested every year by an outside company, comes in and tests our hose. We have went from an 8.11% failure rate to 2023 of a 13.21% failure rate. We basically have taken almost 1,000 feet of 5-inch alpha trucks, and we need 1,000 feet on each of our engines in our tanker. So we are running short right now on our tanker. That's why we're coming here to get this appropriation. Any questions?
Let's get her done.
So is that a first motion?
I have discussion first.
Any further discussion or questions?
I have a question. Number one, is the hose on the truck, is that part of the fleet management practice? In other words, when you're doing fleet management on your trucks and so forth, is that part of what's inspected and then maybe replaced as you?
We replace it as needed. We, unfortunately, some of our attack line, which is what we actually take into the buildings, gets damaged. So we have hose, when we run a set, we buy a set. So that's why some of the hoses are small stuff we already are always buying. You know, we try to keep 2 sets in for each truck. The supply line, we don't really, until something happens, is when it's testing. It gets tested every year. And when it gets failed, that's what's happening is our average age, like I said, 2020, our average age of the hose that failed was 9.78 years. In 2023, it was 14.3, which is when our who started.
Thanks. And one more question, yeah, it might be for you. Not an issue with this, but I have a question on the, surplus, 600,000, 800, value, 500, as you said.
Yes.
How is that surplus when it's tax rate to do that?
The tax rate, it continues to levy every year and accumulate whatever it is they don't spend out of there. So what they've done in previous time periods and probably going forward, it'll be applied for just the truck. So it might be combined with the debt. It would be the cash part of, maybe a chassis payment, something like that.
If you're going with it, written down, it's not.
It absolutely flows over time. And what we typically come to is you're never going to have enough ongoing funds to fund all the capital that you need, just as the county, and you end up taking on debt above and beyond this. This is kind of that make shift, fill in for those time periods of capital.
The excess levy appeal, was it significant for you? Was it?
Theirs was done 2 years ago and it was significant. It was for population increase and it actually doubled their operating. So their operating fund is twice the size of what it was 3 years ago. However, this capital fund is set by a statutory rate, just like yours at the CCD in the Cume Fire and Building Equipment. It's 3 1/3 cents across the tax base. It never gets any higher than that. So as much as the assessed value grows, that's how much the revenue grows for that fund.
Thank you. Are you anticipating more capital expenditures?
For this year, we are not. Next year, we will be. Next year, we have our extrication equipment. We purchased the last big pieces of extrication equipment we purchased new was 12 years ago. We bought some used pieces from White River, but they are when they went to the battery powered stuff, but we are now getting we're coming, the life of that is coming to an end. So we're going to get some battery powered stuff. The next generation battery powered for our rescue engine next year.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Any further discussion? Open for a motion?
Now's your time to shine.
I move for approval of ordinance 2024-01, ordinance regarding additional appropriation for Hensley Fire Protection District.
Second? I'm sorry, I'm open for a second.
I thought that was the second.
No, I'm not gonna second. I mean, I would, but I prefer not to. Someone else.
I thought that wasn't a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a first on the floor by Ron Deere, a second by John Mallers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thanks.
You guys will have to cut me a break. It's my first one.
You did very well. You did very well. Better than me.
I've been studying Robert's Rules of Orders for a week and it said I should never make a first or a second unless I have to. Okay, under old and new, oh, wait a minute. This was added to the agenda. Amy, something, I didn't catch it. I'm sorry.
I didn't catch it. If I could bring it up. I don't know if we're going the same direction or not. But, and I'm sorry to inform everybody that Jim Kirkham has passed away. And, so in the month of February, we need to advertise for his position. And Amy, what is that position again?
So future was your appointment to the county park board. His term expired at the end of this year. So I'll advertise for that. They do have to do a Democrat.
Yes.
But what was added to the agenda was nomination to the Whiteland Economic Development Commission. It's just a nomination. The current person is Christina Beal. They want to nominate her again, and they will actually do the appointment.
Do we need to incumbent?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the recommendation.
That's the recommendation that they wanted to have it by the end of this month. I just found out about it.
So could I just make the motion?
Based on the information Amy just provided.
Yeah, what she said. That's my motion to approve.
We have a motion by JT and a second by Mr. Dittmers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Okay, and we have other old and new business. I know, Ron, you're gonna come up in just a second. But if I may, I would like to ask if anyone has thought about or has any changes that they would like to make to their liaison lists for next year. I've looked at the list and if you want to make changes to who you're representing, can you send me an email and let me know? I'm perfectly fine with the ones that I have, and we have any new council this year, so I would think everyone would be okay with it, but I wanted to ask that everyone review it, and then please send me an email if you would like to have any changes, and then we'll look at it next year, or look at it next month again. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. So under old and new business, I believe, Mr. Deers?
Yes, I have an update on Personnel Committee. Gave you a summary before you of what is transpired with Personnel Committee August 30th. We discussed the formation and goals of the committee, had general discussion September 20th. We discussed an issue about current job descriptions that were missing in the auditor's office, and documentation was sent out requesting updates on the missing job descriptions, the Census Department heads, elected officials. There were 79 job descriptions, and organization was charged, information was requested. And then we had a brief discussion that was held regarding the past process to update job descriptions, as well as longevity pay was a general discussion. October the 5th, we finalized a recommendation for the council regarding a temporary procedure to create new job descriptions or update current job descriptions. Brief discussion was held regarding the use of an external consultant for the classification of the job descriptions. From that, John Mollers and John Dittmers and I proceeded to go forward with that. November 17th, an update was provided for the current job descriptions on record in the auditor's office. And at the present time, we're only missing 5 job descriptions that have not been updated so that they have a complete documentation of all job descriptions. We discussed the opportunity for the departments to update their job descriptions. The memo was then sent to all elected officials and Board of Commissioners, allow time to review their job descriptions and suggest any major updates as necessary. At this point in time, that number, and Kirsten's going to be talking a little bit about this, is somewhere between 50 and 75 new updates to job descriptions where there might be a change in job classifications. The projects that went forward were September 20th to October 27th. Kirsten gathered, or the group gathered, all the missing job descriptions to the auditor's office to bring that up to date. And the September in 2023 reviewed external salary information Kirsten did from the 2023 fact book, and it was provided to the council and the committee. And then on November 17th to January 17th was a request to receive information about those department heads, elected officials that wanted to modify their job descriptions that would result in a change in classifications. And that is still in the process of being done. And during that time, John Dittmers and John Mollers and I met with an outside consultant called, and I forget what the name of it is, NIP or something like that. And we discussed what it is that they could do for us, what they might suggest that they would do for us. And it came down to this. One was a fee for updating job descriptions, or if new job descriptions came forward, That fee was quoted at $150 per job description. Using the 50 to 75, at the present time, that would be about $10,000 out of our professional services. Second item, and I'll come back to the first item, was they give us a quote for looking at a salary analysis sort of along the road of what was done by Irwin back in 2019. That amount came in at a significantly higher than was expected, $75,000. And then $250 an hour for additional services they might provide to us. The third discussion that John and I had was what Kirsten has been doing. And Kirsten has been providing us with a proliferate, however you say that word, of information. The committee had suggested 5 above, 5 below with outliers. I call outliers meaning those ones that we need to compare Marion County when it comes on public safety, Franklin public safety, some of the other public safeties. She has done an excellent job and will be doing some additional possible consideration for her to do. I've talked with Elizabeth, and of course we have the stipend within the position. I've talked with Elizabeth about Kirsten going forward and documenting this information, providing it for us so that we can proceed in 2024 for 2025 considerations for salary analysis. And it's not something we have to get done, immediately, but what we have agreed that we should proceed forward with as soon as possible with a contract, which has to go through the commissioners, and then it comes to us for appropriation. I would like to suggest that we do that this month, and it would be at the next commissioners meeting, and then so that we could proceed with that, a quick special meeting after the commissioners meeting that evening. Kirsten, if you could come up and summarize what I've not said. This is not a lot of new information. It's just the consolidation of information that we currently have had in the past. Thank you, Kirsten.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Kirsten Larson, Deputy Auditor. We pretty much covered it all with the update of the Personnel Committee. Right now, we're in the process of the departments were given an opportunity to receive equal guidance on how to update their job descriptions if they so choose. So that deadline set for January 17th. I met with, I believe like 13 departments, just to give them information that the Personnel Committee had reviewed, that we had taken from like consultants of how they review classifications and review the job descriptions, just to give people an idea of how to proceed and make sure that what they're doing in their everyday jobs is reflected in their descriptions. I've also prepared for you tonight, for Councilman Deere's request, the AIC information for the 5 counties above and below us. That information is technically 2 years behind at this point because it's the 2023 fact book, which is the 2022 budgeted salaries. So, like Councilman Deere had mentioned, there are other ways to get more updated data going off of the most recent salary ordinances as they're published, contacting other departments to manage it internally and create that here in our office rather than paying an outside consultant to do it, which is something we've kind of looked at and discussed. We can also do internal salary studies. That's something that we've messed with a little bit in the auditor's office based on stuff that, we have our regular management for employees. We can use that data to kind of reflect the classifications, COMODs to COMODs, PATS to PATS, et cetera. I think there's a lot of potential and I'm happy to help. But is there anything else?
I really don't at this point. I think you covered it pretty well.
I do too. The only thing I would say is I think that the idea of some continuity and conformity with the job descriptions makes sense. The salary study itself, if we can do that internally, then it's a much more efficient way to get where we need to go. So if we can kind of combine the two initiatives, I think that's makes some sense.
All right, I'd like to open it for general discussion about quite a bit of work that a lot of people have been doing, and the committee is going to continue. And I can suggest to you that when we have to come up with a recommendation after the 6 months, that we consider continuing with the committee. But you know, the people that are involved in it have been doing a very positive approach to it, and it's been open, and we're continuing to want to proceed. And I personally believe that this first proposal about going forward with the job classification is our first step. And the committee, I think, agree with that. So, are there any questions about it? Is that what we're doing?
Well, Kirsten, you mentioned something about a January 17th deadline. What is that deadline?
That is the deadline that was put out in the memo from Councilman Deere via the Personnel Committee for departments to submit any updated job descriptions. So there's a form, just as a formality, they choose, yes, I want to update, or no, I don't, for review by the outside consultant, and they submit those updated job descriptions to be forwarded to the consultant at that time. So that deadline's set for the 17th of the
Have
month.
we hired an outside consultant?
That's what the proposal is tonight, is to move forward to the commissioner submitting a contract for the $150 per classification.
I'd like to oppose that thought. And if you want me to elaborate, I will.
I would like for you to,
By all
please.
means.
So the term of the committee was to be 6 months. And I think I want to thank everyone that's been involved with the committee. I appreciate your time. It's not wasted effort. And I bet that each and every one of you it really opened your eyes as to what the problems are within the county as far as how we work and collaborate. And I think that's what we need to move toward. I personally don't think the committee going forward is the answer. I think that the committee should be disbanded at this point in time. And I believe the answer down the road, not today, would be a human resource navigator or coordinator. We had it in our budget. It was pulled from our budget in the last budget hearing. But I think before we hire a consultant, we need to have a point of contact at the county for that consultant to work with. I don't believe it's the council's responsibility to work with a consultant or to hire a consultant. I don't believe that falls within our scope of what our legislative and what the law calls for us to do. We're primarily a fiscal body. It gives us the state statute gives us the right to hire somebody who can assist us with that. And we have both Amy and Kirsten to do that right now, and they're doing a great job. All the information that has been provided to us, I think, can still be provided to us without having a committee do it. Now, if I'm wrong, please let me know. But I think that it takes a lot of time of people who have a lot of other things to do. But what I think has come from this committee is that we're realizing what the issue is. There's an answer. I don't want to get into it here, but there's an answer to this. And I think it has to come from collaboration. The problem we have at the county level is that all elected officials, every employee of the county serves at the pleasure of an elected official. We have many, many elected officials, and I'm not going to go through them all here. But the problem we have with human resource is working with all those elected officials and all those employees that fall underneath them. So the state legislature has placed us in a situation that we have to collaborate on this. They put some responsibilities in with the commissioners. They put some responsibilities in with the council. And the only way we're going to be able to move forward on this is to collaborate, work in good faith towards an answer that's going to be to the benefit of all of our employees. And that's what every department underneath an elected official and every elected official.
Thank you, John. I agree with that. And I think you said it best, my feelings. I think that at this point, the committee can disband.
Here, I have a thought, and John, I tend to agree with what you're saying. I think we've got a concept laid out that makes sense. And where the dangling participle is, if you will, with what you said is, now what? Because here we are at a point that I think we've got some momentum, at least to the where these consistency and conformity with job descriptions and that sort of thing. And maybe that's not the council's role, but it has not been done in the past. So what I don't want to do is lose momentum with some of the accomplishments we've had. So the question becomes, from here, where?
I think that it resides in Amy, who is our assistant, and Kirsten, who Elizabeth is allowing us to utilize going forward.
To take that concept forward with the vendor that Ron mentioned, not John.
Right, for a minimal amount. You know, I don't think we should be in a position as a council of hiring an outside entity. And I think that everything that we need falls under the auditor right now. I think at some point in time, we need to look at that and see if, you know, this would, I hate to use the word HR, but because it gets shot down a lot, but personnel, every employee within our county should be able to go to the same place. And there's marvelous HR consultants out there. I've seen them, and everything is on the cloud. When you come in, there's an onboarding process. All your benefits are within the realm of that software. So we are learning, and we need to get there just as soon as we can, but it's out there and we need to get to it as fast as we can. But I think the next step, John, is for us to get it budgeted, to get this human resource navigator or human resource administrator on board, so that then we can act through that person to the outside consultant.
And I think if we'd have had that, we would have done that, but that not having been budgeted, I think that the committee was, and I agree with you, John, I don't think it's our role to take this thing forward, but we also had nowhere to go with it. So the risk here is kicking the can down the road. How far before we make progress on, I think, addressing an issue that is pretty worthwhile to address.
Okay.
So.
And an HR person is, I mean, that's a non-starter with commissioners, it's my understanding. So,
well, there are
nothing else is going to happen. So I don't think that's the right answer. I think.
Well, I don't think there's anything in front of us right now that for the commissioners to consider. I think that's, you know, if we get a human resource person or a navigator for personnel on board, then we can bring those things to light, and we can start bringing in the consultants and talking to us. But I don't think we're ready yet for that.
Let me ask Ron this question from a scope perspective with the vendor that I can't remember the name of it either. It feels to me like, back to job descriptions, that's a place to start.
That was the primary suggestion.
Yeah.
That, you know, all the work that has been done as far as finding out we didn't have job descriptions that existed, which the way it came about would have come about without the suggestion of the committee, I don't know. Number two, we did find out that there was going to be 50 to 75 job descriptions that has been requested to be updated from elected officials and others. That if it's not us, then who?
Well, I think that's where it lies. I think that the elected official has got to be responsible for everyone that's employed underneath them. They have got to massage and create the job descriptions because they're doing the hiring and firing. Why did we have to go out to a consultant?
They're not writing, let me clarify, they're not writing the job descriptions. And the other elected official says, out of the 50 or the 75, here are the ones that I want to change from comment to poll or wherever it might be, that it is reviewed independently by an outside consultant at the rate of $150 per job description. The committee suggested that that was the not total unanimous decision, but by consensus, that analysis should be done by outside consultants. We, the two Johns and I, then as a subgroup of discussion, then consulted with an attorney about doing what had been done in 2019 by Irwin, which was an outside salary analysis. So there are two different items here. The third point I made was that instead of suggesting that we do it outside, that we do it inside. And they were not asking an outside consultant to do that. They were asking for, and I talked with Elizabeth and Kirsten, that she has a skill level, and Elizabeth thinks it's important enough to devote the time. And I don't know if you want to comment on that, any additional.
She's doing a great job. She's her responsibilities.
So, this would provide us information, data, same thing that basically John John T is saying, it provides us data and information that she's been working on, that she's been providing. And what I'm saying is that I and the two Johns as a subgroup have suggested that we're not proceeding with a salary analysis at this point in time for 2025, that she'll be able to update it in 2024 during the council budget process.
So I think you've done a good job. You've got 50 of them. How many more are we going to have during the next year?
Well, I think I've made it clear in the memos that have went out is that, we provided this opportunity, so we're not just constantly coming back, but that's a policy of whether or not the council would consider every month of the year a new position or a revised position.
So 50 positions at 125.
150 comes out to about 10,000 if it was 75.
So we have plenty in the budget for that.
Right.
Correct, under professional services.
Right.
So I'm in favor of going forward with that.
No, I'd
And
like
any new that comes up could also go to Kirsten. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
I would like to insert something here, if I may. And Elizabeth, you stop me if I'm wrong, okay? I've been around for those analysis, those job studies from when they first started, from the tiering forward, doing it and doing it again and doing it again. There's 91 other counties out there, and we all have the same walking orders. Johnson County is not any different than any other county. Every county, whether it be the same consultant or a different consultant, most of them are the same consultants. In a roundabout way, every county has a first deputy. Every county has a Kirsten. Every county has, so somewhere in the other 91 counties, they've paid for, repaid for, classified, redone. That information is out there. It comes through on a regular basis. So what they're going to charge $150, you can give that lady 15 minutes and she could duplicate it just by researching on an information site. So I know it would have to be validated and you have to work with the directors, but I'm just saying this is not new. What we're trying to do here, This is not new. And I think as elected officials, all of us, we have been given the task of doing this. It's not easy. And I think our process is a problem here, more so than getting the job descriptions and the classifications.
Right, because I think right now, the burden lies in the auditor's office to handle this and to be able to talk with all the people. And they probably all aren't talking with you. But what I perceive happening in the future is we have these 30 elected officials. They all have, collectively 700 employees underneath them. There's one place out there where they can go and get all their information. Now, the benefits are the responsibility of the commissioners, and there are other responsibilities out there. But just like in Michelle's, she's got 7 employees, 6 employees. So every one of those employees could go to that cloud and see where their benefits are. They could ask for paid time off. They could see how many vacation days they had left. And it's all out there on the cloud. But we'd have one person in the county that would be, that director or that navigator starting out. And I know it's going to grow from there. But that's just my vision.
But that's not with all due respect, that's not what's been suggested by the committee. What has been suggested by the committee is that when we have a reclassification, I'll use any example, it doesn't matter what example it is. If there was a truck driver in animal control and a truck driver and the highway department, that if a position wanted to be changed from position A to position B, that this will be an external analysis for that position, which takes it and provides an outside opinion. Doesn't have to be accepted. It's outside opinion that truck driver should go from truck driver, not the person, but the responsibilities have been changed, and that position should be reconsidered for an adjustment of whatever that might be from A to B, and that part of it be done independently for $150 towards the position, rather than a Kirsten or Elizabeth having to say, I'm going to analyze what Teresa or Michelle has submitted about their change in a job classification of it going from A to B. Not the person, but the responsibilities.
So what does this outside consultant know about a treasurer's office? What do they know about animal control? In fact, I saw one of their comments was they had a cat person in animal control and they didn't know how to write the job description.
Who said
it's in their letter. So Klotsky, is it Miss Klotsky? Clutchy, on animal control. She should have that responsibility of writing that job description with some help, with a format. But I don't think that
they would, John. The consultant is not writing a job description. They're ranking it based upon the factor evaluation system, not writing it.
So they still would do that.
Yeah.
For $125.
I just wanted to give you some numbers. There's 264 job descriptions within Johnson County right now. Because, there's 20 truck drivers, but they all have the same description, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, I have 38 job descriptions that elected officials have signed the form saying, I want these reclassified, or I want these reviewed for their classification. Estimating based on the meetings I've had, but I haven't received yet, that number is sitting at about 60, but I haven't received them yet. But that's just interest from other elected officials. Outside of that, I really haven't heard anything else about who wants to update what. So that's just kind of a numbers for you. You had mentioned how many might there be in the future. There's a total of 264 job descriptions right now. Going through the process right now, maybe about 60 at this point.
And that excludes, didn't it exclude the sheriff's department and in all of the judicial system? Like 50% of the employees?
They have the option to update them, and I've met with representatives from both of them, but I haven't heard exactly if they want to update any or a number.
But I think this consultant specifically stated that those would be excluded in their analysis, correct?
No, we're talking about two different things. That's what I'm trying to clarify. Only those positions that have had a request in job classifications under the factor evaluation system, which assigns points that we used in 2019, that assigns points to positions and then makes a recommendation of what that position should be ranked. That is all that I'm suggesting that the subcommittee and the committee, not subcommittee, the discussion group and the committee have discussed, is looking at change in it. The job description is rewritten by the department head or the elected official. And if you remember, I came back to you and I think it was October and suggested a procedure that the committee suggested also, that we have a process, because the process was convoluted. We all experienced it this last year where the Parks Department is one in particular, where they said, we want to change the job classification and we don't know who we're supposed to send it to. Do we send it to Barr? Do we send it to the commissioner? Do we send it to the council? And we clarified that with a suggested procedure that a reclassification would come forward, that if it would be specific as that what it held to be reclassified, and if there were any new job descriptions, the new job descriptions would also be submitted.
So,
Now, so, you know, I mean, the bottom line is that the only thing that I'm suggesting that the committee has a consensus and both the Johns on the committee after meeting with the consultant, the only thing we have an outside consultant do is $150. Not rewriting, but reprinting, for lack of a better word. But it is, this should be that. What has been provided and written by the elected officials and the department heads through the commissioner.
Okay, in order to reel this back in, I think we could sit here all night and discuss this. I don't think that we're gonna be at a point to make a motion on anything. JT, you have one final thing that you'd like to say, and elected official Michelle Grace has indicated she has a comment she would like to make. So would you like to go first, JT?
here we are.
Uh-huh,
We have 6 of us here right now, and we can't make a call.
right.
And that is the very issue that we're going to get into with personnel issues. And they should not be residing at this body or in a committee.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But the other thing I would say is, and Pam, you mentioned the other 91 counties. I think we should think about how do we become better than the other 91 counties at what they do, rather than say, well, this is what everybody deals with, right?
Yeah, Johnson County has always had that forethought. that
But it
line.
doesn't work apparently, because we just fire and fall back. It feels to me like, and given that's my observation, being at this thing not very long, and those with some longevity would know better than me, but feels like it just needs to be tightened up.
No, I agree with that completely, but I don't know that paying yet another consultant is going to be what we need at this time. I just don't know that I agree with that. Michelle? You're gonna solve all of our problems?
I
Go for it,
wish.
Michelle.
Michelle Ann Graves, Johnson County Treasurer, am just speaking from the point of an elected official who does have these decisions to make. I would like to recommend, if you move forward with having someone score the job descriptions.
That's a good word.
That we have and the job descriptions that we want to change. My recommendation would be that we stay with Irwin Shealy, and that being each company that you go with is going to have a different method of scoring. Irwin, I'll just say Irwin, I'm not sure what their name is. Shealy scored across the board fairly. Any job descriptions that don't change would not have to be revisited. Any new job descriptions would be comparable with the old scoring because they're using the same metrics. So in an effort to be fair across the board and not have to rescore every single job description, if you change to a new company, stay with Irwin, just score the job descriptions that are changing, and then the metrics will be the same with what we've been using since 2017. This is my third time in 7 years to ask for new job descriptions. I felt that Irwin did a very fair job across the board. I did have to have a change in my department. I rewrote the job description, submitted it to Irwin, paid the $125 fee, and they scored it.
So you're saying it's a service we already have?
I'm saying I would recommend that if we're going to continue scoring, let's stay with Irwin and not move to another company. I feel that if you move to another company, you're going to have to score each and every position that we have in the county. And I don't think that's necessary. I think Irwin's metrics were fair. I would recommend that we stay with them if that's the route we intend to go.
That's good information,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
Thank you.
And the name of the company is Wagner, Irwin and Shealy.
Yeah.
And could I say something?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I'd like to clarify what she just, if I may.
Hang on just a minute. Hang on just a minute. JT has the floor. So go ahead and say what you've got to say, and then Mr. Deere will get to you to follow up. But before we do that, does anybody else have anything in the audience they would like to come forward and speak of that has had any affiliation with what we're speaking of? Any other elected officials? Department heads? No? Okay. JT, go ahead.
So WIS, Wagner, Irwin and Shealy, we had them on the books prior to last year, and we had to make a decision at the council. I proposed that we went with Wagner, Irwin, Shealy, continued, but this council decided that they wanted to get away from a consultant and did not want to do that. But I agree with Michelle. I think we need to stick with them for a little while longer. The old saying, no need to change horse midstream. And I would like to stay with them, and we've got the budget to do it.
Okay.
Real quick, I'm sorry. On that note, we still have a what's the word? Engagement letter with them. And I think their rate is the 150. So if we're gonna stay with WIS, the rate's gonna be the same as it is this new company. And to Treasurer Graves' point, there's not any risk of comparing apples to oranges potentially. We have all the same standards. So
do we need to make any additional?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I know we had talked about you reaching out to them, but I wasn't clear. I didn't think you did yet to this, but.
The 135 was their 2019 and haven't gotten a 2024 rate on the per.
Right. So, okay, so it's not like we don't think it's changed then with our engagement letter that's still in effect.
Yes, and the clarification of what Michelle has commented on is that they would be both using the factor evaluation system. There's no change in the matter of the system. They would both be using the exact same factor evaluation system. I will say that those who've reached out to me have commented that there were some considerations and concerns that perhaps we needed a fresh look, and that's why we went forward with the fresh look.
Okay, so I think we have a lot to take away with us this evening. I don't know that we're anywhere near making any motion as has been talked about to move forward with anything at this point. And I know we do need to make decisions if we're going to make changes. So I guess I'm open for any suggestions, or do we want to take the information that we have and move forward? Do we have anything from legal? Any suggestions?
I'd like to make one, and I'd like to make an motion. And I want to begin by, I don't want this to be an insult to anyone that's on the committee. And I want to thank everyone that's been on the committee, especially the three that have worked here diligently recently to try to put some things together. But I believe that the committee should be disbanded at this point in time. And that is what was in the committee's agreement. That's what we voted on as a council. To begin with, as an ad hoc committee, it was in the county council's rules that an ad hoc committee was to be no longer than 6 months. And so it's out of my hands I'm not the president, and the president can decide to,
From what I understand, it's already been dispersed or it's already, the ad hoc committee is gone. And in order for that to return, oh, I thought it's not the 6 months? I'm sorry.
September, October, November, December, January, February.
I had it as July because I talked to everyone and I gave the information out in July.
I think the vote was in August, if memory serves correctly.
Why don't we dissolve this one and appoint a new one?
There you go.
Well, I think we've all got a lot to think about. I'm not prepared to resume any committee at this point.
Somewhat tongue in cheek, because that's what we do, right?
Right.
Appoint another committee and then we'll appoint another one and kick the key. So. Anyway, I agree. Take a breather.
This obviously isn't working, so I'm
What
not,
is the commissioners wanting?
I'm not.
I think we need to step in and.
To suggesting it's not working, I mean, I don't think that's appropriate.
No.
I promise I'll only take 5 seconds, maybe longer than 5, but I have a suggestion that there's something I brought up in the very first personnel committee meeting, if everybody remembers, that would simplify things. I said it, several other people in the committee said it that day, which is that this, our opinion was that the committee was trying to do things that are the commissioners under the commissioner's purview and not the council. And I stay with that. And that's, you're talking to a member of the committee here saying that I would say that if you wanted to make a point of action to move forward, is that the consultant thing is we're talking about one tiny component of a big picture. This job reclassification, rescoring is one piece of a huge picture.
Right.
So we keep waiting to address just the one tiny thing. We still have this giant rest of the pizza that we have to bite in some time. Okay, so my suggestion is, can the council not make a recommendation to the commissioners officially that they hire a full-time employee that would work under Barb or so? I'm sorry, Barb. I'm sorry. I mentioned this before. Someone who is a coordinator for the county already, that's part of the commissioners, that is a personnel coordinator, that this is their full-time job. We no longer have to have a committee to do it.
I'm not opposed to it, may I?
Yeah, I was just saying, that's an action thing you could do is make a recommendation right now to the, to make one to the commissioner, the commissioners.
I agree with you that there has to be that person, but for the commissioners to do it, the commissioners are not over all the other elected officials.
Right.
So what we need is a collaboration with commissioners and all the other elected.
That's why I call it a recommendation. If the council would make a recommendation to hire a person, much like Barb, and that's why I kind of threw her on the bus here. She coordinates everything regarding insurance, regarding benefit, all these different things. And that is
in her guys to go work.
Yes, exactly. So I'm saying a person that would work in a similar capacity, not replacing anything that Barb does, not doing in a similar capacity, or as an employee of the commissioners. That does have that because the commissioners do dictate county policy, and that's exactly what this is county policy. And yes, you would have to have buy-in from the elected officials, which is what we said on the very first meeting. Sure, there would have to be buy-in, but I think everybody's ready. I think all the elected officials, and I can't speak for all of them, but I would think all the elected officials and appointed heads are ready to stop talking about it and do something about it. And so I'm just suggesting that that's the way to do it. Is get that full-time employee in place. There's a mechanism to make that happen. We have a full-time employee that's doing it now, make it a full-time position, the money is there. And they can, you guys can appropriate the money if they create the position. We have that done. That's rejected. And that person be. Committee was not sort of complete unless I'm not representative in any way, shape, or form. I'm just speaking on behalf of the sheriff's office. Because this is a perfect example. We are the largest number of employees and we have an elected official. And the sheriff has said repeatedly, and that's why I'm participating in it, that we're all on board with doing something as far as this goes to get on board. So I can't speak for all of them, but that's at least a third of your employees, almost half of your employees right there, that we're on board, but it needs to be, instead of continuing to run in circles around this, I'm just suggesting that's the way to get it done. I think the commissioners, what they were opposed to was the committee doing it. I think that they would be, I think it's on board.
I don't think that's right.
Position.
No, Baird commented at one of the meetings he was at, he was participating, but I think it gets back to the core of what the committee was all about. And the committee was just to provide recommendations to the council purely.
And there were other items that we were considering, if you'll recall, and those who have participated and been part of it also our attorney has a representative on it and the judicial and everybody that opened the door to have discussions about things over and above like longevity pay, like step analysis of job descriptions. And I've not been suggested that the committee has not been an opportunity or an avenue for those discussions to take place.
But we haven't even gotten to that yet, though.
Well, but we're not going to if we disband the committee because it was just providing suggestions and
I wasn't making a
alternatives.
recommendation on that. I was just making a recommendation on a way to move forward with this one piece of that giant pizza that needs to be addressed. And that's because it's a policy related issue, that putting it under the commissioners in some way, shape or form is so what I was suggesting is the council could, maybe the commissioners aren't on board. Well, but you're not hurting anything if you don't ask. That's
Right. I think I'm with you on that. I think that's the,
When we have another committee member here, you have any comments that just coming in now? So, and this isn't a protectionism statement or anything by, myself as a committee chair. I think it has provided the opportunity for there to be open discussion, open dialogue that has taken an hour and a half to 2 hours that the council struggles with spending to, and I believe that however long we have to take to discuss whatever we need to discuss, we're not in a goal to get out of here at 9 o'clock or 10.
Oh, yes, we are.
I mean, with all due respect, that's, then we need to have special meetings to have these kind of discussions. If it's not going to be through a guidance from a personnel committee. But I was just throwing out there what it is that my interpretation along with the two other Johns have been, and I don't think we're saying no, that we shouldn't proceed with doing these kinds of things. John Dittmer's, I don't think that was your comment that we shouldn't, but what is the avenue if we don't proceed with doing some of these items with the continuation of suggestions coming from a dialogue committee, which is basically what it is.
Well, here's where I am. This is great conversation. And I think to your point, Ron, I think you made was this has brought the issue to the forefront. And if not this, then what?
Then what? Yeah.
And I think that's where we are. And I think that part of this can probably be used, not all of it. I don't even care. But the point is, we've got the emphasis on it now. And what I don't want to do is start backtracking and lose sight of the fact we've made progress.
And I'm simply suggesting that disbanding the committee means we need to have an alternative to that. And if that means we need to have 5-hour discussions or 2-hour discussions, we can't continue to do it with 10-minute discussion at council meetings. And that's my point. And I think the committee has provided that opportunity, but.
Well, I think it's more purposeful. You're looking for a way to be more purposeful and intentional in keeping this thing moving, and how we move, it remains to be seen because of what we're talking about, seems to me like. So,
But we'll tell you that I researched a couple of other counties. And I've not been part of this committee, and I agree with you completely. It's brought things to the forefront that should have been, it does need discussion. I know a lot of the other counties that are comparable to us, and I've talked to 3, they have personnel committees. They are not structured the way that ours are, but they also have working hand in hand with that, what they refer to as a finance committee, which actually works one-on-one with the individual departments and the directors to get them in that one-on-one setting prior to the budget hearings to discuss, these are the individual job descriptions you have. What do you think? We noticed you've changed this. Why? What for? I did pull Mike Reuter off to the side the other day and ask his opinion on the outside consultant for advising in this type of thing. And it was not an official opinion. He just said that you had to be careful in placing the responsibility on some of the things that we were elected to do on outside sources. So, and I don't think that he was referring to just the job description or the categorizing in the job descriptions, which, like you said, that's a small portion of it. But I agree, there are things that need to be done, and I also agree 10-minute discussions aren't going to do it. But I also don't know that it's the personnel committee or it's us as a whole body here. I don't know what the answer is either. I agree with Michelle completely. If we already have someone providing that small piece at the 135 or 150, I don't know that we should change looking for a different view, especially if they're doing it on the same standards. You know, if we already have somebody that's doing it that has done it in the past, then I have a tendency to agree with that. But I don't know that we are at a point to make any type of motion here this evening, other than the one you spoke of on disbanding, and it's just for next month. So, you know, even if you postpone it, that's an automatic that it will be disbanded until it's reconstructed again. Am I correct?
Correct.
And I'd also like to make a consensus that we go forward with Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy.
I think it's a thought. I think it's another piece of information that does need to be considered. I don't know if it's anything that we need to vote on tonight. I don't.
Well, there is a motion on the floor.
Oh,
in
okay.
the committee. So if there's not a second that dies, then we can move on. But if there is a second,
Okay. So there is a motion on the floor to dismantle the personnel committee, period, right? So let's take that motion first by JT.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
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 3-3.
Not an aye.
Aye.
Yeah,
After
well-
saying that, I just think it needs to be tabled until February. And then we can make the decision to regroup if we need to then. I don't know of any decisions that need to be made tonight.
It's true.
How can the committee go forward if they were to be disbanded after 6 months?
I don't think it's.
So the vote was 3-3, so it's a tie. So it means the motion actually dies, doesn't actually carry. So de facto.
It's 4-2.
4-2.
I voted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it
I
was
voted aye
3-3.
because of what John just said. Why not? It's
Oh, I
gonna
thought you
happen
three
anyway.
all said yeah.
No,
It
It
was.
sounded like you were a nay.
no.
Okay, so who voted to disband?
I did.
We need a roll call vote. So we have 3, and then you're a no,
2 noes and 4.
No.
no,
No.
and no. So it's 3-3.
3-3.
You were a no?
Mhm.
Oh,
So it's
I thought you were a yes.
it's 3-3. It's a tie. It means the motion
Okay.
doesn't carry. So the committee technically still exists. After 6 months, it'll disband, and the council, if it wishes, can reconstitute the personnel committee in February.
So it's a moot point at this point.
It's
It's a
weird.
moot point,
Okay,
right?
so as chairman of the committee, I guess it could be another motion. I need a direction of having another meeting to discuss what?
Y'all haven't met since middle of November.
Right.
That's because we were talking
So
about the
I think
consultant.
part of the problem with the personnel committee is it's not been meeting to do anything. And I'm not on the committee. Tiffany sits on it. I thought originally the committee was really just to come up with a process by which Michelle could figure out what her process is to get y'all the information for.
Which we did.
For budget.
That's been done.
No, wait,
don't
the
think
job
nothing of
descriptions this suggestion has been done and was approved by the council that we proceed with the procedure and that's what she's been doing.
So just for clarification, you're asking tonight for approval or going forward of a contract that no one has in front of them, I think is what.
Oh, no, well, that didn't get anywhere. So what I'm saying is that the reason the committee has not met in November and December was simply to allow the review of a consultant contract for what it is that might be suggested to be done. That doesn't mean that there aren't other suggestions that the committee could consider that has discussed in the past. For example, making recommendations that John has brought forward about a step process, about longevity pays, just opening, this general discussion about what it is that the committee suggested. If there's no reason to continue, then the committee would officially disband without any additional meetings. So do we want to hear what they have to say in an additional meeting, or we just want to close it down, which we haven't done because we have a tie vote?
Well, I mean, you could talk and talk and talk and talk and talk around the issues, but I think at this point, what you guys need to do is start putting up solutions.
Well,
And
that's
then
what,
perhaps voting on those solutions.
that's what we have been doing, is making recommendations for consideration by the council. The committee has made no decisions. So we can continue to make recommendations until we're told to be quiet.
No, but I think one thing we missed was, and it's not provided, is a process for elected officials, Michelle and others. If this, then what do I do when it becomes a personnel issue? What is my channel to create a consistent approach to what I need to have done so I can come to the council? And I think that's what we're missing, because if I'm an elected official, I want to know that, so I know what to do.
This
So
is
that we
literally
get-
the conversation we had in like February of last year.
Yeah.
Where
We had
we've
no
made
process.
no progress.
And I think
on that front at all.
yeah.
But you need, if the process, I think, only to your point, or Wiz or whoever, the process usually involves some consultant to do the scoring if it needs to be done. So that is a component that has to be in there, but we still don't have the process.
But you almost have to back into what we want, and then these are the components of what we need, and I think that's what's becoming apparently very apparent tonight is we need to start with the end in mind and then start backing in rather than moving it from, here's what we think we need to move forward. And that's where my mind is right now. And it's nobody's fault. I think it's healthy. I think it's been a good discussion, and I think we've made progress in spite of what it sounds like, because I think we have.
You all are the ones that make the decision for the process. It's not a committee or its recommendation. It's still you can redo a committee. What other counties have done is just council members. You can have your look at the whole point of your having a liaisons with the departments to get kind of what they're gonna do, but like ultimately the decision is the council's to make these fiscal decisions. So it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
Tim, I think it's a great point. Pam, you brought it up a minute ago. To me, we got 91 other counties, right? Who's doing this and doing it well? And then why don't we go and talk to them and copy what they're doing? So that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and it feels like we're kind of starting in the beginning, and maybe we don't have to. That's kind of the epiphany I'm having right now is we can simplify this, because it feels like we're way down in the weeds based on the conversation, and we need to come out of it a little bit and simplify this thing a little bit.
So,
What can we do?
so we do need to bring, and I know several of you are willing to sit here all night, and if we need to, we all can. But if we're repeating ourselves, that's what we're doing. We're just trying to come up with a solution. So I do have one question. If the committee has not met since November, have all of the committee members seen all of these proposals?
Like, the committee is just recommending that should explore the option for the contractor, which was what we were doing. That was the recommendation. It's like, if you want to get a new consultant, then go do that. But there has been nothing done since then as for committee, because ultimately it's the council's decision. If it's coming out of your budget for professional services right now, the contract goes through the commissioners as it always does, the WIS contract. But it was, if you remember, I think it was last year, it was moved to the council's budget. You were the ones that made those determinations, and so. Professional
The
services.
professional service.
Correct.
Under professional
It's
service.
meant to be for Wiz, right? For
Right.
Wagner Wiz.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And I will tell you of the other 91 counties, unless it's changed, but Barbie, you would probably be able to answer this. A majority of those does go with WIS, correct? Several.
No, it's not the majority. Yeah, it's not the majority.
Make a recommendation to what, if they want to send it to the consultants.
Gotcha.
So we went to the county and talked to them. But it wasn't a large thing. It might just be like a few elected officials.
Yeah. And that's what
Auditor.
that was the feel I was getting to is, the other committees that some of the other counties have are not near as encompassing as what we have on ours. It's just,
That's correct.
yeah.
And that was
I mean, that is an absolute point that, and all of us can do all of our different researches and, you know, we all come up with different information to what we receive, but there is a consistency throughout of it that is a philosophical approach of whether or not it is a broad committee or a committee that is only of counselors, which is probably what it is that and I can, you know, document what counties I've communicated with that simply have a personnel subcommittee that is only made up of counselors. And when we formed this back in earlier this year, for it to be buy-in and for it to be broader, we've included judiciary, we've included commissioners with bar, we've included Elizabeth, we've included counselors, we've included the sheriff's department, and we've been inclusive. And so, you know, whether or not we go forward with a standing personnel committee speaks to the issue of what John T pointed out about it being 6 months and it can always be reinstituted. But, you know, this is not uncommon practice for it to be documented that counties have this subcommittee, but they unfortunately have it in the absence of the commissioner realm not being or the council not approving or whoever a personnel coordinator who gathers information that helps the council make decisions. I'm speaking positively for those council members that are on it, for the committee members that are on it, and we have 3 other committee. Matter of fact, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members of the committee that are present tonight. That, you know, I believe have felt that there is been an excellent response and consideration for issues that might be considered by the council. However, we did not meet in November and December because we were in the process, and we did have John Mollers and John Dittmers and I met with the consultant and just told them what it is we might suggest that would be considered. And they put together a proposal, and the proposal came back in 2 forms. Won't go over it again. The one about the salary, the salary itself, salary analysis, and then the primary one about the $150 for looking at a factor evaluation system. And quite frankly, from a personal standpoint, doesn't make much difference whether to me, whether it's Irwin or this other company. It just was suggested that we should consider an outside company, and they're both going to be doing exactly the same thing based upon the same factors.
Did you have something else to say, Chris?
I do, based on what I've heard, and with Elizabeth's blessing for me to help out with this, I've done research on other counties, and there are multiple counties that have personnel committees in full time. Sometimes it's just council, sometimes it's collaboration of council and commissioners, auditor or HR director, personnel director, what have you. But they do have these things. And I'd be happy to research more and share that information with you going forward if that's something that the council would like that may help this conversation move forward at a later date.
Well, I think any information you could provide on anything we've talked about this evening would be very beneficial. Thank you.
Don't give me that. I'll give you a book.
I had those books long before you.
Okay, and the second item I requested was I brought up our last meeting about a discussion. Apparently ain't going to take place tonight, but I very definitely feel we need to have the conversation in February, where I've made recommendations and suggest that others make recommendations about how we can improve the budget process.
So it's just informational.
Oh, gotcha.
It's just informational because they're taxpayers that we're asking.
Oh, you can go ahead. John has some information
From Amy.
from Amy
Yeah.
that
Sure.
the taxpayers were asking questions on dollars that have reverted from.
From general fund number 1001, $5,729,000 or $729,497.57. Take note, Michelle. And food and beverage,
Appropriations. Money not spent.
right. And it's reverting. Food and beverage, $316,620.63. So that could be noted in the meeting. Right? Good enough?
Thank you. You handed me all those numbers and I thought, oh my gosh, what are we talking about here? We need a synopsis before I accept a motion to close. Adam? Come on. Where do you think we are? What do you think we need to do? The committee goes away next month in February. We don't want to, we need to have a better plan than what we have now. So I think that maybe now we should think about going with WIS to, this is not a motion, this is a discussion, to do the same thing as Mr. Deere has suggested needs to be done on the reevaluations of some of the classifications. I think if we're going to have a consultant, we need to stick with the one that we have. And I'm not so sure the committee, I don't know that it needs to be completely banned. And I know the 6 months is up in January, but I also know it can be reinstated if necessary. And if we haven't had a meeting since November, I don't see where one more month is going to make a difference. But I also agree, we need to make a decision. Something needs to move. So I don't know that we're any further this evening than we were when we started.
Well, I mean, what Tiffany and I can do is we can reach out to WIS to get an updated engagement letter to confirm that nothing's changed since the one we have currently. That can be who we use moving forward, continue to use if we do need to reclassify anyone at a department head or elected officials request. The personnel committee, we can reconstitute it in February. It may be a good idea to maybe when we lay out the parameters to put some more guardrails up, say, look, you're just going to stay within these 3 things that the council wants the committee to actually focus on and not go off on random tangents, potentially would probably be a good idea. The HR discussion, I really don't want to have that at 8:10 after a long discussion as it is, but 30,000 feet up, HR, some of it's going to be commissioner responsibility, some of it's going to be council stuff when it comes to salaries. That's a conversation later. It will need buy-in from other elected officials, particularly the commissioners. If it's something that's under the commissioners, I can take that to them to see if there's going to be a little more buy-in and that when it's framed that way and how it's structured, there potentially could be more buy-in in that regard. As we sit tonight, I think what we'll just do is we'll reach out to WIS for that engagement letter. And then I think with the new president, vice president, we can have a conversation about maybe a more limited scope for the personnel committee, maybe a better use of the personnel committee's time as well. So they can just drill down on specifically what the county needs at that level moving forward. And we had that conversation throughout January to present in February.
I know the committee took on, they bit off a big amount. That was a lot for them to try to wrangle in and work their way through. And I think, they got the ball rolling. So.
I think Adam's right. Scope definition and it being somewhat narrow and not so broad that you move around too much. You just get it done. And I think that's where.
However, that in and of itself, I will suggest to all of us is not a 5-minute discussion.
No,
it's not something we can do under old and new business. It is a philosophical approach and a philosophical difference that when we get ready to discuss that, we need to be prepared to drill down and have more than a 10-minute discussion.
I make a recommendation that when things were given both to Tiffany and I 5 minutes before the council meets, that perhaps this information is provided ahead of time mostly for the council's sake to review, but also I think would help facilitate a more limited conversation to stay focused on the task at hand.
When's your deadline for February? Is that going? Were we submissions for packet? Not to put it.
You don't know off the top of your head, Amy?
I'm just saying the deadline is coming up. If you want to be on February agenda or get it out, these packets are done she's very efficient on when she gets them out, and if it's in the packet, then we don't have discussion, but like Adam said. We don't know.
I didn't see that coming. We got hit a deadline.
Well, I think council got a little bit broader on the deadline there in the packet, but the point remains, getting to you guys ahead of time to distill it and read it. You know what it is versus, hey, here's something at
Email it.
6 o'clock at night. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and this information wasn't sent out at the last minute and from an intentional standpoint, that it was just bringing up to date as a report what the committee had done. The recommendation about the salary, the $150 was just simply a contract that had been submitted for review that didn't happen until the end of the year. And I did talk with Tiffany about it. Tiffany, yeah, definitely. I always keep listening to Tiffany for some reason. I'm talking to both of them so much. So, this had been discussed and it was just a matter of timing. She was on vacation. I don't know why she didn't want to do it in Jamaica or whatever, but
I just-
she jumped on it when she got back.
But I don't make your decision as far as the contract. I don't think it's anybody else on the council saying that. I have seen it.
I'm just saying that it wasn't last minute from a practical and standpoint. It was information that came about as a last minute. The example you were given tonight by Kirsten was what work she has done. It was not saying let's act upon the work she has done. The only suggestion I made was that we go forward with the consultant, period. Now, we're suggesting a different than when the consultant was suggested. They're both suggesting probably about the same amount.
Okay, Mr. Bellers has something he'd like to say.
Does that move that we adjourn?
I'll second that. I have a motion for adjournment.
Just a second.
A second, all in favor? Aye. Aye.